Time to go through the papers now, and joining us this morning is political commentator, columnist and founder of the Contrition Prize, Ali Mirage, and journalist and author Nikki Hodgson. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Happy Boxing Day. Thank you for being up earlier and chatting to us. Ali, you're going to kick us off, aren't you, with the Mail and the King's speech?
The King's speech, yes, indeed. The Mail saying King's message of love and hope. He salutes his beloved mother as he talks of time of great hardship. I think this was, for me, he really struck the tone perfectly. I mean, he got across two key things. One was he wanted to tap into that sense of it being really difficult right now with the cost of living crisis. He mentioned a time of great anxiety and hardship. He also gave a nod to the public services, the ambulances, the health service, teachers, police, army, etc. A lot of these people, apart from the police and army at the moment, are on strike action. So he tapped into that. He didn't obviously mention that, but the nod was quite clear. And I also think he, again, wanted to show that he was defender of faith in general, not just defender of the faith. And that's something that if you go back to his interview he gave to Jonathan Dimbleby many years ago, something that's very important to him. So he mentioned different religious groups in the country and what they had done to help people in the cost of living crisis. And he also gave this speech in St. George's Chapel, standing up, which was also different. And you could really see the baton passing from his late mother to him. And I think he really stamped his impression on this speech. I think it was all about him. You could see it running right the way through. I think it was very genuine. I think it was very warm. I certainly thought it came across very well. And I thought it was quite emotional, actually. And he clearly is an empathetic man. And I think he wanted to get that across, and I think he did.
10 out of 10 from you.
To be honest with you, if I'm being perfectly frank, I did well up. I did. I watched it twice.
I did too.
I did. I did. It was quite a moment. And look, I think he got the points across very well. He connected with the audience. And this was his first big outing for us, the first Christmas message, 69 of them done by his mother. And I think he struck the tone exactly right.
Nikki, well, it was interesting because it was always going to be, you know, bittersweet, changing of the guard. You expect to see the Queen, you don't for the first time. So that's odd, isn't it? I thought it was interesting there was no detailed mention of family, and certainly no mention of Harry and Meghan there, which is kind of wise, from his perspective, given what's been going on. But yeah, I felt it was a bit safe, the speech. But then I suppose, you know,
really?
First time, yeah, I thought it was a bit safe. I thought there was kind of like a bit of tick boxing going on with like mentioning all the kind of relevant public servants that we have to be.
Nikki, I saw it a different way. I thought it was very on the edge, actually, because
on the edge.
Yes, because you actually saw the clips of images of public sector workers, right? The very public sector workers that are striking right now. Now, you could argue, was that a hint? Was that a veiled message to the government? And actually showing that the King is more in touch with the public right now and the sentiment in this country than the government is.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Sorry, Emily. Was that solidarity with striking workers? Did you take it as that, or was it a political message that, you know, these people work really hard and perhaps they deserve a pay rise, because that's going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't read it like that. I read it as and of course, you know, speechwriters that help. It's not just him writing, is it? You know, the people that put that together sort of thought, all right, so we need to show that we do care about all these people that are struggling and suffering right now. I thought the references, I mean, there were some direct references to poverty and food shortages. That was good. So, yeah.
Well, it's interesting, of course, because he is not reigning in his coronation. He's going to have a big fat coronation, so lots of money will be spent on that.
Emily, on that, look, we don't know. It was being reported a couple of months ago that he may want to try and pare that down given the cost of living crisis and be in tune with the times. But now, look, none of these decisions are made without government involvement. The government also wants to project Britain on the world stage. We saw that pomp and pageantry after the death of Queen Elizabeth II. It was huge. Everyone was glued to their screens around the world, cast of billions watching that. And right now, global Britain needs all the friends and all the publicity it can get. So I do think it's actually a moment for the nation to project its soft power.
And it's what we do best, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
The pomp and pageantry, I mean, we're good at it. Nikki, let's have a look at the eyes, shall we? And this is about NHS targets to be swept away.
This is an exclusive from the Eye, and it's about Patricia Hewitt. Do you remember Patricia Hewitt, who used to be a health minister many years ago at Labour? she's basically saying that she's going to rework the targeting system specifically for kind of GP surgery. So the problem at the minute is that every surgery is working to 72 targets, and they apply no matter what the kind of demographic of patients is, what your funding is, all the kind of variables that every surgery in different counties will experience. And the idea is that by getting rid of these targets, people will be able to deal with the actual problems that their specific surgeries and practices have. So it sounds great on paper, but I mean, I'm a little bit hesitant to say this is fantastic, because I mean, I feel like we hear these stories every kind of 18 months about the NHS. Let's take out another layer of bureaucracy and see if we can do better, but we've got to try.
What does it mean when it says it's going to be run along similar lines to schools? It's a bit like an Ofsted inspection or something.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't go into much detail. This is still kind of very much like the skeleton of the plan, but it's kind of saying the way that individual schools get individual attention. That's what it means. Yeah.
Well, something definitely needs to happen when it comes to the NHS. Perhaps this is a step in the right direction. I don't know. Ali, the Telegraph, last gasp for COVID data behind lockdowns.
Yes, I mean, this is the UK Health and Security Agency doing away with tracking of COVID data. This R number that we used to be absolutely pinned on all the time and worrying what the R number was.
Gosh.
They're now trying to just normalise this as part of everyday life. Yes, there's COVID circulating in society, but most of us, majority of us have been vaccinated, some multiple times, and particularly focused on the elderly that have been vaccinated. So I think the government's basically saying, look, we're not going to track this in the same way anymore. We're just going to get on with it. You could argue, well, it actually does help to track this data, but they're deciding that enough's enough and we need to get back to normal. So you look at the way this has been handled compared to what's happened in China, which has been a complete and utter disaster. Given the fact that they had a zero COVID policy, now they're having to open up because it's caused so much damage to the economy, and you're now having potentially 1 million people piled up in hospital, going to be at death's door. So it's we haven't had look. It was really tough at the beginning, but I think we've actually got through it pretty well. I think the vaccination was good, and I think this is now showing that we are now moving on. And let's hope there is not any new variant that we don't know about. There was a scare story the other day. There might be another one on the way.
Well, what's interesting too is, of course, that it's flu that's hospitalising people this winter the most. I read 6 times higher the numbers of hospitalisations compared to this time last year for flu. So that's the pandemic that's going around at the moment, it seems.
Nikki, this is a really interesting story that's caught my eye this morning. It's from The Guardian about the number of stay-at-home fathers rising rapidly.
Yeah, so this is to do a kind of one positive story about the pandemic, I suppose, is that the number of stay-at-home dads since that period has risen by 1/3, which is, that is quite sizable. Yeah. So 1 in 9 stay-at-home parents are now dads, and that's up from 1 in 14 in 2019.
Does it explain why? Have they decided that they want a completely different lifestyle?
Yeah, so basically what's been happening is because they've had more time with their families, they've realised, A, maybe they aren't doing enough, B, they've connected better with their children, and C, maybe family is more important than being at work all the time. And then home working is allowing them, for their hybrid working, for example, it's allowing them to do more childcare and more household work. So yeah, I can't really see this as anything but a positive story. I think the important thing to remember is that the majority of carers at home are still mums, and mums really took the burden of care during the pandemic because they were the ones that decided, I'm going to quit my job, I'm not earning as much, or I'm going to take the hit. But it's great to see that it's kind of like a sea change of culture, it's thinking, oh, actually, I should be here more, I should be doing more. And they've decided themselves, it's not some government initiative trying to tell them you need to be more active.
Tell men to stay at home.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good news.
Yeah, it's a positive, isn't it, like you say, to come out of the pandemic for, people to realise what's important, family, which is lovely. Ali, should we have a look at the Times? And this is the AI cure for bed blocking in hospitals.
Yeah, so this is artificial intelligence that's being developed now by the NHS. They've commissioned a company to do this, and apparently it's already being in use in certain hospitals already. And what it does is, when you go in via A&E, it will take readings it will make a projection of how long you're going to be based in hospital, essentially based on your background, your propensity to certain diseases, your medical history, age, and other factors, so that they can plan your discharge from hospital in a much better, more effective way to prevent bed blocking. Half the problem that we've got at the moment with all the backlog in hospital, we know we've got a 7.2 million waiting list, but we've also got ambulances queuing up outside A&E departments not being able to get in. Why is that? Because of bed blocking.
Isn't the problem also that they have nowhere to go once they are ready? So the AI won't cure that problem.
You're right, Emily. The AI won't cure that problem. What it is trying to do, though, is to try and give advance notice to the care providers in social care to try and manage their workload and their capacity better. The fundamental problem, though, as you say, is that we don't have sufficient capacity in social care. Now, one of the things that Rishi Sunak, when he was Chancellor, was trying to do by increasing national insurance by 1.25% was to grasp that nettle. It got reversed by Liz Truss. It never got reinstated again. And when everyone keeps moaning about the fact that there's bed blocking and social care provision in this country is insufficient, which it is, both in terms of care homes and care in the community, we need to pay for it. I mean, that's the reality of it. If people don't want to pay, then they can't complain.
Well, something needs to be done, doesn't it? That's
absolutely.
Sure. I mean, I was outside St Thomas's Hospital the other day. I think it was something like 10 hours to get from an ambulance into A&E.
But this is the problem, it doesn't get around the staffing issue, and the staffing issue is a major part of this.
Is a major issue, yes.
Yeah.
Ali, Nikki, I'm afraid that's time, but thank you so much for that. And you're going to be with us throughout the programme, aren't you? Lots more to come.
Excellent.